more devoted to order than to justice. That's very profound to me. So let's play it, excuse me. Let's play it until it gets to that part and we'll discuss.
First, I must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence
order than to justice. And I think sometimes people, or maybe I should say it this way. Let me put the words up.
who is
more devoted to order than to justice, because and we're going to be talking about the road to justice. And in this example that he's using here, the road to get to justice is very bumpy. So they prefer the order, at least to have the order, or they prefer the order than to going through this bumpy road or this bumpy path to get to justice. And this is sort of like a critique of the entire ideology of social democracy, the social democrat sort of ideology, because it's a very childlike understanding of achieving whatever it is, liberation, freedom, as if you're going to go from being in this terrible state to being in your goal state without any sort of issues, any sort of fighting, any sort of adversity is the best word to get there. It's very infantile to think that you can go from where we are now to whatever that goal is. Let's say freedom, liberation, $25 minimum wage, to believe you're going to go from there to that simply by rubbing shoulders and getting vote. That's not how it's going to happen. You get what I'm saying? It takes work. But anyway, we're going to talk more about that, but let's continue, because I'm going to just go point by point here.
Devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension.
Now, this is very important to kind of break down. You prefer negative peace, which is the absence of tension. It kind of builds on the previous statement. And you hear it in all of how social democrats even talk, how their language. It's the absence of tension. Like when they're critiquing Biden, they're using certain language as to avoid what? Tension. And it has a lot to do with class, because people of a certain class don't want to are averse to tension. Let's say it that way. They don't really want to get into a situation where there's tension. So understand it. But anyway, I'm gonna get off into a tangent if I don't stay on track here. Let's stay on track. Let's continue with the video to break it down.
To a positive peace, which is the presence of justice.
Right. So it's a negative peace where you're just being quiet for the sake of order and civility. That's a different quiet. That's a different peace, a negative one, because you're only being quiet as to as a contribution to order, right? So whereas positive peace or is a presence of justice where everything is is in order or peaceful because there is justice. Everybody's happy. And that's the exact situation that the professional managerial class, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, and we'll be getting to that video soon. I'm building up to that. Forgets. They always seems to develop a circular logical argument against to talk against that. But let's continue with the video.
Who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action.
Methods of direct action. I agree with the goals you seek. Isn't that what they say when we critique them? Why are you critiquing them? The Social Democrats. We believe in the same thing. Isn't that what they say? So we believe in the same thing, and this is so crazy. This is literally what David Sirota says. But I have a different strategy. Isn't that okay? I guess in theory, having different strategies is okay. In theory. But when we dive into the details of a strategy, and then we find out that one of your strategy is rubbing two sticks together in order to get health care, you see where we would now have to analyze and break down your strategy and why we need to move on from your strategy. But this tension, and I'm going to use the word tension, that's between the more radical sort of left thinking people and more social democracy sort of thinking people, is strategy. And it's this very point that MLK makes, which is why I argue that the Bernie Sanders industrial complex is the white moderate. The Bernie Sanders, we have the same policies, but we do not agree with your methods of direct action or strategy. You can put strategy if it's not a direct action in place here as for the point that I'm making. And what do they say about our strategy? Our strategy does what? Create too much tension. But as MLK says in this speech from the Birmingham jail, the letter from Birmingham jail, is in this speech, in order to get to justice or positive peace, there is a road, a path that is going to be bumpy. Let's just say, use that word bumpy. And that is the exact road that people of a certain class do not want to take. If you sip martinis on Sunday afternoons in your, I don't even know, Manhattan apartment, you know what I mean? You're not necessarily going to be advocating for positive peace. You'll be advocating for negative peace, for order. But let's continue with the video.
Who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom.
Now, this is very important. Now, all of this is very important. I keep saying that. Who could paternalistically, you see that word that sticks out to me so much. And where am I? Right here. I'm trying to just go back to that word here. Let's see. Who paternalistically. Isn't that the feeling you get from who we call the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex? And I don't mean just people on YouTube. I mean the people who follow that logic. Don't it feels like when they talk to you, they feel like they're patting you on the head, like you're just immature. Isn't that what Crystal Ball said? Grow up. What does that sound like to you? Like a parent, right? Paternalistically. Let's continue.
He can set the time.
And this is the thing, that they can set the timetable. Like, we're on their timetable for because I need to stop saying $15 for a $35 minimum wage. We're on their timetable to eliminate police brutality. We're on their timetable to get everybody single payer health care because they're already getting it. So let's continue.
Table for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time.
Who lives by a mythical this is, I know I keep saying it, this is why this speech is so now. This is another just literally spot on critique of today. Who lives by a mythical concept of time. What do they tell you? We need to wait to get a committee seat. It's this mythical, next election we'll get him. When are these some people who don't have health care? When is on your timetable, when are they supposed to get it? The person's 10 now, when they're 27? And the point being, as far as strategy, their strategy moves towards the goal too slowly and has too many pitfalls. They say our strategy is too risky. It creates too many relational problems. Isn't that what AOC said? Let's continue with the video so we can get through some of these other receipts here.
And who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season.
Isn't that what they're saying about the election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Right now is not the time. Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, let's give her respect. Dr. Jill Biden came out and said, now is maybe he's not your candidate, but now is not the time to be going off and doing democracy and picking people you want who align with your thinking of how you believe the government and life in the United States should be ran. A more convenient time. This is literally what we are always told. Let's continue.
Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will.
We say this all the time. It's more infuriating, which is why we go after the squad and progressives, because shallow understanding from people of goodwill, that's way more frustrating. To hear your explanation when we get to the Sam Seder video, to hear the explanation by Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland. There's other options besides red or blue. Uh-oh, I hope I didn't turn my mic off. Let me I haven't checked the chat. I should have, because I always have sound problems. Let me make sure I don't have any sound problems. Yeah, nobody's saying there's any sound issue. I'll toss up some of your comments in just a moment, but let's get through this video here.
Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress.
The dangerously constructed dam. Let me get the right wording. That block the flow of social progress. You might say, what do you mean? We have the same policy ideas. We want to do it. We just want to do it through this very terrible system. Like I said, if your strategy is going through the Democratic Party to get Medicare for all, for example, isn't that rubbing two sticks together to get Medicare for all when they explicitly say they don't want to do that? So isn't that blocking the flow of social progress? But that's what they're trying to talk us into doing. So, and this in lies what some of the frustration as far as what I take from what Martin Luther King is saying here is that you would think blocking the flow of social progress is coming from the people who are saying opposite of what your policy belief, not from people who are saying they're on the side of your policy beliefs, but that is exactly what you're doing when you're telling us now is not the time. When you're telling people in swing states, vote blue. If you're not in a swing state, that is blocking the flow of social progress when you do that. So let's continue with the video.
Yes. I had hoped that white moderates would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary.
This is the part that I was speaking to earlier. The present tension. When I said there's a path to a positive peace, but it's bumpy. This is what I'm describing. He's described, this is how I described it, the same thing. He's saying that the present tension in the South, because the protesting that's going on in the South, the civil rights movement that's going on, that tension, what does he describe it as?
Is a necessary phase
of transition. What I describe as the path is bumpy. You can't get to positive peace. You're on one side, like right now, how would you describe where we're at? Wouldn't you say we need to improve? So we're at a place where we don't want to be. And we have a goal where we want to be. In order to get there, there's a cliff. I'm on a cliff here. There's water. There's rocks. You get what I'm saying? It's not an easy road, but this is what social democrats want you to believe. Wait until there's an easier road. Wait until there's no tension and we can sneak past the corrupt people who's okay with genocide in our government. Both sides, red or blue, doesn't matter. But this is where, and I had a particular phrase written down here. Let me see where I have it. The actual journey to positive peace is what white moderates despise. The actual journey. That's the issue. What he's describing here, the tension down in the South, because he's describing a current event. I'm giving it a broader context, meaning just for any sort of social change needed, you gotta have tension. You gotta have protests. You gotta have direct action, sit-ins, boycotts, in order to get to a positive peace. How did you think the ceasefire? Now let's say ceasefire in occupied Palestine is the positive peace. Now, from October 7th, if you looked at the corporate media and how they were describing what was going on, Nick and I both said it was unbearable. You know what changed that? The protests every day. walking for hours, walking for miles. You know what I'm saying? Getting dehydrated. I was out there. All of our members attended the protests. What's up? Rome is in the building. Let me know when you want to join, sir. Just give me a thumbs up or something like that. So we these protests, how do we get to ceasefire? That's where I was at. How do we get to ceasefire? Which is, in this context, is a positive piece. We all know in real life, ceasefire is not good enough. It's very temporary. So, but in the context that we're talking about, a ceasefire is the positive piece. How do we get there? Through protests. Did we get there just saying, let's wait till there's a easier time for Joe Biden and the Zionists when they're going to be nicer? Did they do that? No, they didn't do that. I'm going to play some more of the video. Hang on a second.
These are the transition from an obnoxious negative piece in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight to a substantive and positive piece in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension.
And this is another important part. And we get as far as RBN. And what's up, Rome? You're in are you here? Or are you still chilling? Okay, there you go. Yeah, and we get this RBN. We aren't the creators of the tension. We don't create the tension. It's just that, Rome, we are people who aren't afraid. And he says it in his next line. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to put it. We merely bring it to the surface. That's all RBN is not afraid of doing. Go ahead, Rome, if you wanted to speak on that, sir.
No. I'll let you play this through it, because
yeah, for sure. All right, so let's continue to play and get through this little presentation in the beginning.
To the surface, the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with.
That's it. Did we create police brutality? Or are we just talking about it when we say this is the solution, defund the police? Did we create it? No, but we're going to talk about it. And this is when the last time you see the majority report. I'm not going to call them out specifically. Social Democrats don't cover the police state as much because they don't care. They're not affected by the police state. So they don't care.
These people live in gentrified neighborhoods, bro. They need the police. They need the police. Look how the people at TYT talk about the homeless that's in their communities, how they make it look ugly, et cetera, et cetera. They need the police, and they want the police in their neighborhoods, and they're going to continue to gentrify our neighborhoods as it continues, as this continues. And it's so funny to me, and MLK said this, because black and brown people have been cleaning up the world shit. Like, and I don't mean that, you know what I'm saying, just by metaphorically. No, I mean literally been cleaning up y'all shit. It took for black leaders. Black leaders had to revolutionize you people, had to spark your mind and teach you things that your leaders refuse to teach you. And that's the reason why you rocking with RBN now, is because of the leaders before them was telling you the exact same things. And it's crazy that we should not relate to a Martin Luther King quote. We should not have to relate to a Malcolm X quote. Those days are over. We should be living in better times. But it's a shame to see that we still can relate to a fucking Malcolm X quote, and this man been dead before I was alive.
That is a fucking great point.
Black people have been cleaning up y'all shit, and we're honestly tired of it. Tired. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you guys, if you don't get your shit together, they will for you. If you don't teach your kids, they will for you. If you don't take control of your community, they will for you. And what has happened? What has happened since your grandmother years? We watch houses decay. We watch people be displaced. We watch families separate. You can't sit here and tell me life has gotten better since this man has been alive. No, it hasn't. For who? The majority of us is losing it. And now white people is in the same boat with us. Look at that. Look at that. When we told y'all this can happen to you too, because capitalism does what capitalism does. Nobody believes it. Now everybody pointing the finger at each other. And this is the problem in Detroit. These motherfuckers, oh, well, all these niggas that's selling dope, they the reason why the shit like this. All these gang members, they the reason. No. Those niggas been there. They're going to be there, whether it's capitalism, communism, socialism, whatever it may be. They've been there, and they're going to be there after. The fucking, what destroyed our community was capitalism. Y'all had it good for a minute. And then they can snatch it all away in a blink because you don't own it. You don't own the means of production. So what happened when Detroit, when they sold all the jobs out of Detroit? Look at it now. No houses, no generational wells, no schools, no nothing. And now we have to clean up this bullshit again.
Back to your point of black people having to keep cleaning up shit, and then I'm gonna make this point. Get back to the video because just to piggyback off what you're saying, because I saw this in a segment. Somebody black was saying is like, y'all keep asking us. It might have been Charlemagne the God. It was like, y'all keep asking us to come clean up shit, and we're not cleaning up. Like right here, we're being asked to save democracy. They're panicking because the black vote is in the 60th percentile, and it needed to be about 92% Rome in order for them to win the election. So they're panicking, going to black churches, needing black people to save democracy that is not treating us well, which is crazy.
If we look at these numbers, they do not need black people. Like they
don't need us.
Black people, like 1 in 13 black people can't even fucking vote. And more than likely, their seeds, their kids, their families not into politics, they don't vote. Because if my father wasn't able to vote, why would he teach me anything about politics except for become a revolutionary? Right? So if 1 in 13 black people can't vote, we 13% of the population. What is it, like 6% males, the rest is women? We have no real numbers. This is just an excuse, you know what I'm saying? To be like, look what y'all helped us. Y'all helped us save democracy once again. Black women helped us save democracy once again, but y'all could have won with just white women. We wouldn't have made a difference. And that's
but they can't convince enough white women not to vote. They can't convince enough white women. This is why they go after white women. And Nick talks about it. They can't convince enough white women to vote for them. Rome, even though they get the majority of them. But let's get back to the video, and then we can get to some other receipts, and we get to the main event video, which is the Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland video, telling us to vote genocide no matter who.
Out with, like a boil that can never be cured, so long as it is covered up, but must be open with all its.
This, you hear that? Like a boil that could never be cured if it's covered up. It has to be exposed. You have to see it. It's going to be a bumpy road to positive peace. We're not going to just telepath our way there. This is not Star Trek. Let's continue.
Ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured.
And that is facts coming from, our elder